Alright people, so basically we have discussed about the different components of blood. So we'll start one by one and see what and how they are formed, what should be their normal count, and what are their different functionalities. So these are the things that we are going to consider henceforth. So we'll first start with the RBCs, which are also known as red blood cells or erythrocytes. Okay, so erythrocytes we all know are present in mammals as well as other vertebrates. So in mammals they are enucleated at maturity, which means that they will not contain nucleus. This is to, as we all know, provide maximum space to the oxygen. As we all know, they are oxygen carriers, so they will provide maximum space to the oxygen. So enucleated at maturity, which means that when RBCs are young, they have nucleus and other organelles which they lose on maturity. So when RBCs are young, they will have the nucleus and other organelles which they happen to lose when they actually mature. Okay. Now there are two exceptions to this. So birds and reptiles have spherical and nucleated RBCs, whereas mammals basically have enucleated RBCs at maturity. Now there are two exceptions to this. Camels and llamas, they have nucleated RBCs. So amongst mammals we have two exceptions, camels and llamas, which have nucleated RBCs. Otherwise most of the mammals, they all have enucleated RBCs on maturity. During at the younger stage they will have nucleus and other organelles, but they when they mature, when they become fully functional, they become enucleated. They will lack nucleus and other cell organelles. Okay, so lifespan of RBC is approximately 120 days. That's approximately what 120 days, 4 months approximately. The size, if you look at it, this is basically biconcave. So if you look in the middle portion, the size is approximately 1 micron, and around the peripheral portion, the size is around 2 microns. Okay, so biconcave and it is disc like. The thickness is approximately 1 to 2 microns. It varies, it actually varies with size. Okay, now the variation is from 1 to 2 microns. As we see, in the middle portion it becomes thinner, and on the peripheral portion it becomes thicker. So number of RBCs is different in males and females. The RBC count is approximately from 4.5 to 4.5 million to 5 million per meter cubic of blood, per millimeter cubic of blood. So this is 5 million basically that happens in males, and 4.5 million basically in females. So RBC count increases during regular exercises. So during regular exercises, obviously our body will need more of oxygen supply, so the RBC count will increase, or it increases in higher altitudes. Higher altitudes, why? Because there the oxygen in the atmosphere itself is less, so we need to take more oxygen. Okay, in order to supply higher amount of oxygen, the RBC count will increase. Okay, erythropoietin is the chemical released from kidneys. Now when we are in requirement of extra oxygen during circumstances like heavy exercise, or when we are in higher altitudes, the RBC count has to increase, and this RBC count increase is triggered by a chemical which is produced in the kidneys, and this is known as erythropoietin. So if you remember at the start or in the previous slides, we have seen that the RBCs are generated in the bone marrow as well as in the kidneys. So here's how it is generated in the kidneys. Some part of it is generated in the kidneys when we require higher amount of oxygen to support our metabolic activities. Then the RBCs will be increasing in number, and this increase in number is supported by a chemical which is released in the kidneys, and that is erythropoietin, and this will be released from the kidneys, which stimulates the red bone marrow to form more of RBCs. It triggers the red bone marrow to form more RBCs. This process of forming of more RBCs is known as erythropoiesis. This process is known as erythropoiesis. Now I guess we have a problem in the board itself. So let me rub a little part here. I'll make the camera adjustments later. But let's say if we have an abnormal count of RBCs, sometimes the RBCs rises abnormally, okay, and that could be due to exposure to various radiations or maybe chemicals. Okay, and in this the RBC count is not required, however it increases abnormally. So if this is what happens, then we will call this as polycythemia. This condition is called as polycythemia, abnormal condition. And the same way, abnormally when the RBC count reduces, if it reduces abnormally, then we will call this as erythrocytopenia. We will call this as erythrocytopenia when it reduces abnormally. Why would it reduce abnormally? During hemorrhages, during injuries, during operations, okay, during surgeries, etc. So there will be a blood loss, and subsequently due to blood loss there will be a subsequent loss of RBCs as well. So that is quite natural. Okay, now where are they produced? We all know that RBCs are produced in red bone marrow in after birth. So once we are born, the RBCs will be produced in the red bone marrow. However, in the fetal stage, the RBCs are produced in the liver. In the fetal stage, the RBCs are produced in the liver. So these were certain points about RBCs. We are going to discuss more, but you can certainly make a note of it. Okay, so some more aspects about RBCs if we look. Okay, in mammals, I don't know why it is not getting adjusted. 1 second here. Okay, in mammals it is enucleated, biconcave and a circular disc. So it is enucleated, biconcave and it is a circular disc. Other vertebrates, it is nucleated, it is oval and it is biconvex. Okay, so in other mammals we have it as other vertebrates, it is enucleated, it is oval and it is biconvex as well. In mammals it is enucleated but is without nucleus, it is biconcave and circular disc. So because of this structure, what are the benefits that RBC basically gets? Okay, so we have here, if you look into it, this is the surface view of an RBC and this is the side view. This is biconcave. Okay, this is small size and biconcave shape. What benefits does it get? It helps them to flow through thin capillaries. So because of the small size, it is able to flow through the thin capillaries, which is very much necessary for the proper exchange of gases. In a single file they are able to move through. Okay, what is the advantage of not having a nucleus? So as we see in basically the fetal stage, the RBCs are produced in the liver, and in after birth they are produced in the red bone marrow. Also if you look, the RBCs do have a nucleus. When the RBCs do have a nucleus before maturity. So they have a nucleus before they are mature, before maturity. After they are mature, they will lack a nucleus. Okay, so absence of a nucleus provides more space for hemoglobin, because primary function is to carry the oxygen, and hence absence of nucleus will provide them more space for hemoglobin. In comparison to a sphere or a cube, biconcave shape provides a larger surface area for diffusion of gases. So in comparison to a cube or maybe a sphere, this kind of a biconcave shape will provide a larger surface area for the exchange of gases, okay, and primarily oxygen. Okay, so that is the advantage of the biconcave shape and the small size. Now because of absence of, so along with nucleus, other things are also absent, which are basically mitochondria and other cell organelles. So RBCs cannot carry out any metabolic activities because of the absence of these things, and because of which all the oxygen that they carry is transported to tissues and not used by them. So RBCs basically are transporting the entire oxygen that they are carrying to the different cells and tissues and not using them individually, because in the first place they do not have mitochondria. So how would they survive then? Every cell, and we know that it survives for approximately 120 days, that's approximately 4 months. How would it survive without any kind of energy getting produced? So that is one of the cells in the mammals which breathes anaerobically. So there is anaerobic respiration that takes place in RBC. RBCs will never breathe aerobically, because the entire amount of oxygen that they are carrying will be transported to the cells and tissues and not individually used by them. They will not be using it individually. Okay, now about 2 million RBCs are destroyed, and per second, if you notice, about 2 million RBCs in our bodies are destroyed per second. So an equal amount of RBCs are generated to keep the count intact. So in order to ensure that the count of RBCs is intact throughout the body, an equal amount of RBCs are also generated. Okay. Okay, so some more facts about erythrocytes. Okay, so erythrocytes basically are involved in carrying minute quantities of carbon dioxide from tissues. Why is this not visible? Okay, so erythrocytes are basically carrying minute quantities of carbon dioxide from tissues to lungs, and carbon dioxide binds to the globin part of hemoglobin. So basically carbon dioxide is binding to the globin part of hemoglobin. We have seen that there is a heme part and there is a globin part. So carbon dioxide will bind to the hemoglobin part. This is something that we have already seen in respiration. So this is how it will bind, carbon dioxide binding to the hemoglobin, and this will form carboamino hemoglobin. So that's how it carries. A red oxygen carrying pigment, so this is basically a red oxygen carrying pigment which is hemoglobin, that is primarily present in RBCs, which combines with oxygen to form a reversible compound called HbO2. It is very important that it has reversible properties, because if it didn't have reversible properties it wouldn't have been released. Okay, so this is important. Okay, so healthy individual basically will have anywhere between 12 to 16 grams of hemoglobin per 100 milliliter of blood. So any healthy individual will have this amount of hemoglobin per 100 milliliter of blood. Okay, now let's look at the lifespan. Lifespan of RBCs, as we have seen, is approximately 4 months, that's 120 days. They undergo phagocytosis. So what happens after this 120 days? They undergo phagocytosis, that is they are engulfed by the WBCs. So the WBCs will actually engulf them. They will be completely destroyed. Now destroyed in where is the site of the destruction? Spleen. If you remember, in the fetal stage the RBCs were produced in the spleen itself, that is liver itself, and when they mature and when they die, okay, when they are exhausted, the organ where RBCs are produced in the fetal stage and the place where they are destruction happens is the same, that is spleen, and hence this is also known as the graveyard and the blood bank. It is known as the blood bank as well as the graveyard for RBCs. So the plasma membrane of RBCs is very flexible basically. Okay? So what happens is, it is also known as the Donans membrane. It is very digestive. So all the proteins and phospholipids, once the RBC basically dies, all the proteins and phospholipids are digested by the plasma membrane. It's a very flexible membrane. The membrane that we have, the plasma membrane of RBCs, is very flexible. It is also known as Donans membrane and is very digestive. It will digest all the proteins and phospholipids present. Now what happens to the hemoglobin part after the RBCs die? So the hemoglobin part is actually broken into 3, that is hemosiderin. Hemosiderin is basically iron rich and it can be reused. So hemosiderin is the component which is again reused because it is iron rich. Now we have 2 more components which are bilirubin and biliverdin. So these are basically yellow pigments and they are basically present in bile, and from there they are excreted. Okay, now bilirubin and biliverdin are basically excreted out of the bile. They are yellow pigments. If at all they are not excreted, they start getting deposited below the skin, and that's the condition of jaundice. Okay, you must have seen people who are suffering from jaundice have yellow nails and all. This is what happens. This starts getting deposited under the skin. They are deposited under the skin, and this condition is known as jaundice. So these were some facts about erythrocytes. We will learn more about it. Okay, so here we will talk a little more about how erythrocytes are basically produced. So the production of erythrocytes or RBCs is known as erythropoiesis. So the production is known as erythropoiesis. This is the process of RBC production. Where is it actually produced? Where is the place of production? Erythropoietic organs. Okay, so we have erythropoietic organs. We have seen that in the fetal stage it is the liver or the spleen, and after birth it is the red bone marrow. So these are basically the erythropoietic organs. Erythropoietic organs undergo the process of erythropoiesis to form erythrocytes. So in the fetal stage it is the liver or the spleen which is taking part in the production of erythrocytes, and after birth it will be the red bone marrow which is taking part in the production of erythrocytes. Okay, now there is a certain chemical which is required for this process, and that chemical is known as erythropoietin, and this is secreted by kidneys. This erythropoietin is basically a hormone which is specially secreted by the kidneys, and this process of production is known as erythropoiesis, and what is produced is erythrocytes. Okay, two more things which are required. Two more things which is basically folic acid and vitamin B12. So all these are basically required for the production of erythropoiesis. So in erythropoiesis we will require erythropoietin which is secreted by the kidneys, and the site is basically red bone marrow. So it triggers, the kidney basically triggers the production of erythropoietin which is a hormone, and there are two more things which are required, that is folic acid and vitamin B12 which is basically cyanobalamin. So these are basically the compounds which are required for the production of erythrocytes. Okay, now if you look at the other part which is hemoglobin for erythrocytes, one RBC will approximately contain 200 to 280 million hemoglobin. Okay, one RBC will contain this many units of hemoglobin, 200 to 280 million hemoglobin units. Okay, and so if we take per 100 milliliter of blood the amount of hemoglobin present, that will be approximately 12 to 16 grams of hemoglobin will be present per 100 milliliter of blood, and this is basically known as the hemoglobin count. So if hemoglobin falls, when will hemoglobin fall? If the iron count falls, or in case of a protein deficiency. So the hemoglobin content will fall if the iron content falls, or in case of protein deficiencies. Hemoglobin is made up of two parts, one is known as the heme and the other one is known as the globin. This is the iron containing part and this is the protein containing part. So heme is basically the iron containing part and globin is basically the protein containing part. One hemoglobin molecule can transport 4 oxygen molecules and respiratory gases. So one hemoglobin molecule can transport 4 oxygen molecules plus respiratory gases. The absence of hemoglobin or low quantities of hemoglobin leads to anemia. This basically leads to anemia. So hemoglobin can bind with oxygen and this is called oxyhemoglobin, and it can bind with carbon dioxide as well, which is known as carbaminohemoglobin. So the affinity of course for oxygen is much higher. A little amount of it binds with carbon dioxide as well. So when it binds with oxygen, it is known as oxyhemoglobin. When it binds with carbon dioxide, the compound formed is known as carbaminohemoglobin. It has got a very, very high affinity for carbon monoxide, almost 250 times more than the affinity that it has for oxygen, and hence with carbon monoxide it forms carboxyhemoglobin. Now the difference here is oxyhemoglobin as well as carbaminohemoglobin are short-lived compounds. They are not permanent compounds, but this carboxyhemoglobin is a permanent compound. I mean it will not be a reversible reaction. Here it is a reversible reaction, and we know that reversibility is required for efficient diffusion of gases across various tissues and cells and between the blood capillaries. But here It is a permanent compound, and this can actually choke a person to death if inhaled in large quantities, because hemoglobin has a very strong affinity for carbon monoxide. So these are certain things that we have seen about erythrocytes. Now we'll look at the other components of blood and see what are their constituents, functionalities, structure, etc. Okay. Okay, so now we will switch on to the other component of blood, which is basically leukocytes. And we know that leukocytes are primarily involved in the defense mechanism of the blood. So leukocytes, these leukocytes are basically WBCs. They are also known as white blood cells. They are also known as white blood cells. Okay, and they are larger than RBCs obviously, and present in much smaller numbers. Their numbers are much smaller. The ratio is 1:600. The ratio is 1:600. 7,000 to 10,000 WBCs per millimeter cubic of blood are present. So there is approximately a count of 7,000 to 10,000 WBCs per millimeter cubic of blood. They are devoid of hemoglobin and hence are colorless. They do not contain hemoglobin and hence are obviously colorless. Okay. Now they are a prominent nucleus. They have a prominent and well-defined nucleus. They are produced in the bone marrow and in lymph glands. So they are produced in the bone marrow and in the lymph glands as well. Lifespan very few days. Their main function is phagocytosis. Now what is phagocytosis? Engulfing any bacteria, germs, any foreign elements which have entered the bloodstream. Their main thing is to digest it. Okay. Now leukocytes can either be agranulocytes or granulocytes, depending on their absence or presence in the cytoplasm. So if granules are present in the cytoplasm, they will be known as granulocytes, and if granules are not present in the cytoplasm, they will be known as agranulocytes. So granulocytes and agranulocytes, if we just look at their difference, they are 65% of the total WBC count. So the major chunk of WBC are of granulocytes, and only 35% of the WBC count is agranulocytes. Have granules in the cytoplasm. The cytoplasm obviously is without the granules. Okay, they originate in the bone marrow. These are produced in the bone marrow. These are produced in the bone marrow as well as in the lymph nodes. These are produced both in the bone marrow and the lymphatic system. Okay, have polymorphic nucleus. Have a single large nucleus. So in this, the nucleus will be more than one. They will have a single large nucleus, as against RBCs, which do not contain any nucleus at all. Okay, so we will look at more features of WBCs out here. Okay, so we have in leukocytes, there are granulocytes, which basically contain granules. The cytoplasm contains granulocytes, and if the cytoplasm doesn't contain granulocytes, they are known as agranulocytes. So granulocytes get stained with different types of dyes. Get stained with dyes, and on the basis of that, okay, and some other features, we have classified them into eosinophils, basionophils and neutrophils. So as the name itself suggests, eosin is basically an acid, so it gets stained with an acidic dye, hence it is known as eosinophil. This gets stained with a basic dye like methylene blue, and hence it is known as basionophil. Eosinophil gets stained with an acidic dye, and hence it is known as eosinophil. Acidic dye, basically here what we use is eosin. This gets stained with a basic dye, and hence it is known as a basionophil. It gets stained with methylene blue. Then we have neutrophils, which are to a tune of 60 to 65%. This is only from 0.5 to 1%, and this is less than 3%. Okay, so it gets stained with neutral dye types. We have different diagrams to represent it. Now this has got a bilobed nucleus. This is 2 to 3 U-shaped nucleus. So if you see, the nucleus is 2 to 3 U-shaped nucleus. This is basically a bilobed nucleus, and this is multi-lobe, and hence you can see that the nucleus here has got multiple lobes. So this is multi-lobes. This is basically bilobe. 2 to 3 lobes, and this is multi-lobe nucleus. Okay. Now this provides antitoxins that neutralize toxins produced by different types of bacteria. So this basically neutralizes any type of toxins which are produced by different types of bacteria or foreign elements which have entered the bloodstream, and they are slightly motile as well, they can move, and they are slightly phagocytic. Slightly phagocytic means they have slight capacities of engulfing foreign elements. They resist infection, and they are also associated with allergic reactions. So they resist infection and any type of allergic reactions, they are associated with initiating a chain of reactions against it. They are very significant in allergic reactions. Okay, for allergic reaction, basionophils are the main. They secrete histamine, heparin and serotonin. So these are the things that they secrete. Neutrophils protective function by engulfing bacteria and germs by phagocytosis. So by phagocytosis they do this. Okay, they engulf directly. Now we come to agranulocytes. Since the cytoplasm is without any kind of granules, they would not get stained with any kind of dyes. So monocytes, their percentage is 6 to 8. They are bean shaped, large nucleus, actively motile, phagocytic and destroy foreign organisms entering the body. So they are bean shaped, they have got a very large nucleus. So if you see, they are bean shaped nucleus, large nucleus, actively motile and phagocytic, destroy all the foreign organisms entering the body. Then we have the monocytes. Okay, so here we have just discussed the monocytes. Large oval nucleus, produce antibodies, also phagocytic in. These are basically, where is this gone? Why have I written it? 1 second. There is just no place, so I will write here. This is lymphocytes. Okay, I have not written the percentage here. So lymphocytes are tune of 20 to 25%. So lymphocytes basically are to a tune of 20 to 25%. Large oval nucleus, they have got a very large oval type nucleus. They produce antibodies and they are also phagocytic. They produce antibodies B and T. These are the major types of lymphocytes which we are going to study in detail. They are responsible for the immune reaction in the body. So just a quick recap, there was some confusion out there because I had not written the name. So again, leukocytes can be divided into two, granulocytes and agranulocytes. Granulocytes contain granules in the cytoplasm. Agranulocytes do not contain granules in the cytoplasm. Agranulocytes cannot be stained with dyes. Granulocytes can be stained with dyes. Three types of granulocytes are eosinophils, basionophils and neutrophils. Eosinophils can be stained with an acidic dye like eosin. Basionophils can be stained with a basic dye like methylene blue. And neutrophils, they can only be stained with neutral and natural dyes. Okay, these are generally bilobed nucleus. These are 2 to 3 lobed nucleus, and these are multi-lobed nucleus. They basically provide antitoxins that neutralize the effect that are produced by bacteria. They are slightly motile and phagocytic, and they also resist certain amount of allergic reactions. Basionophils are generally associated with fighting against any kind of allergic reactions. They secrete histamine, heparin and serotonin, and these are basically primarily phagocytic. Neutrophils are offering a protective function by being phagocytic. Now in agranulocytes, obviously they cannot be stained with dyes. They are monocytes which are to a tune of 6 to 8%, and they are lymphocytes which are to a tune of 20 to 25%. Bean shaped large nucleus, actively motile. They are phagocytic. They destroy foreign organisms entering the body. They produce antibodies. These are large oval shaped nucleus, and they produce antibodies against the antigens. So also they are also phagocytic in function. They are of two types, B and T, and these are the major type of lymphocytes responsible for the immune reaction in the body. So very important role to play by lymphocytes out here. Okay, so we will now talk about leukocytes and certain features about leukocytes. One second. So these are basically leukocytes. Okay, they do not contain any pigment like hemoglobin is contained in RBCs. So they are devoid of any kind of pigments. Okay, their size is generally 8 to 20 micrometers. Okay, it varies. They are very much less as compared to RBCs. Okay, so as compared to the total RBC count which is present in blood, the count of leukocytes is very much less. So this is around 6,000 to 10,000 per millimeter cubic of blood. So this will be 6,000 to 10,000 per millimeter cubic of blood. So if we look at the RBCs to WBC ratio, that will be approximately 6,000 is to 1. So RBCs to WBC ratio will be 6,000 is to 1. Their shape is rounded or slightly irregular. They have a slightly irregular shape and they are rounded as well. Nucleated all throughout their life. See, basically in RBCs we have seen that at the younger stage they will have nucleus, but when they are matured they will not have the nucleus. When they are matured and fully functional, they will not carry the nucleus, so as to accommodate the space of nucleus to oxygen, so that they can carry maximum amount of oxygen. Whereas in WBCs we will see that all throughout their lives they are nucleated. So we have different types of WBCs. There are different shapes of the nucleus. So WBCs are also known as polymorphonucleocytes. So polymorphonuclear leukocytes. Why? Because they have many nucleuses. So polymorphonuclear leukocytes. Now in different places the abbreviations are used in different ways. So in some places polymorphonuclear leukocytes as it is. In some places what happens is the morphonuclear part is combined into morpho. So we say it polymorphonuclear leukocytes. Some places it is just PML, and in some places the morpho and nuclear part is combined. So this is polymorphonuclear leukocytes. So that's how the abbreviations in different places are different. So different types of WBCs have different shapes of nucleuses, and this phenomena is known as polymorphonuclear leukocytes. Okay, now their lifespan is very short, very short, very few days, just 3 to 4 days, as against the lifespan of RBCs which is 120 days. The lifespan of WBCs is just 3 to 4 days. The site of production, where are they produced? They are produced in multiple places. So one is obviously the red bone marrow, which is a site of production for red blood cells as well. They are produced in spleen as well, which is again the site of production common to RBC, and they are also produced in lymph nodes. This is not the site of production for RBCs. So they are produced in red bone marrow and they are also produced in spleen. Okay, so these are basically leukopoietic organs. Just as we had erythropoietic organs. Erythropoietic organs was spleen and red bone marrow. Spleen generally in the fetal stage, and red bone marrow in the adult stage. So leukopoietic organs are organs which produce leukocytes. So red bone marrow, lymph nodes and spleen. Okay, process of formation of WBCs is known as leukopoiesis. Just as we have the process of formation of RBCs as erythropoiesis, in the same way the process of formation of leukocytes is known as leukopoiesis. Okay, now the total leukocyte count, very important, because on the basis of the diagnosis of blood report of total leukocyte count, the doctors generally start their medicinal procedures. Okay, for various types of infections. So generally for various types of infections, along with the symptoms that they display, along with if there is a blood report that is pulled up, the WBC count gives a very vivid picture of what type of infection has happened, and so that accordingly the doctors can start the medicinal procedures. So the TLC, the total leukocyte count, is anywhere between 6,000 to 1,000 per millimeter cubic of blood. So on an average it is about 7,000 millimeter cubic of blood. Okay, so 6,000 to 10,000 per millimeter cubic of blood is the total leukocyte count. This is known as TLC. Now TLC can rise higher. Why? During infections. So as it is basically concerned with the immune system of the body, so obviously the TLC count will rise higher during infections, and this is known as leukocytosis. Okay, similarly the TLC count can drop, and this phenomena is known as leukopenia. So we have different reasons for both leukocytosis and leukopenia. There is this special feature of WBCs that is known as diapedesis. Diapedesis basically means that these leukocytes can actually squeeze through capillaries. They can change their form and shape. Okay, there is special properties of WBCs, diapedesis, in which they can squeeze out of capillaries and squeeze out of capillaries both in and out, and fight with the infection, because these are the only mediums that we have to fight infection in blood related infection. So they can squeeze out and fight with the infection. So that is a very important thing, an important feature, diapedesis for leukocytes. We will learn more about them. Okay, so we will quickly draw a comparison between the various leukocytes that we have studied, including the granulocytes, agranulocytes. In granulocytes, we have seen that there are acidophils, eosinophils, basionophils, and neutrophils. Eosinophils can also be known as acidophils because they get stained with an acidic dye, that is eosin. Basionophils, they get stained with a basic dye, and neutrophils, they get stained with both dyes. Then we have monocytes and lymphocytes as well. Okay, these are agranular leukocytes. These are granular leukocytes, which means that they will have granules in the cytoplasm. The percentage composition of neutrophils is around 62%. Highest. Basionophils is anywhere between 0.5 to 2%. Acidophils, that will be 2 to 4%. Monocytes will be 5 to 3. They will be basically around 3%, and lymphocytes will be around 30%. Okay, this will be basically 3 to 5%. Okay, now we have size. Their size is anywhere between 10 to 12 micrometers. Their size is anywhere between 8 to 10 micrometers, 10 to 15 micrometers, 12 to 15 micrometers, and 8 to 12 micrometers. The different sizes we have. Nucleus, this is multi-lobed, this is S-shaped, this is bilobed, this is kidney shaped, and this is rounded. Okay, so these are basically basic differences. Cytoplasm, they are neutrophilic, they are basophilic, which means that they get stained with a basic dye. They are acidophilic, they get stained with an acidic dye. Basophilic and basophilic, that means that they get stained with a basic dye. Granules, very fine granules, coarse granules. We have coarse granules. Here they are both absent. Okay, because they are agranular leukocytes. Lifespan, there is 10 to 12 hours, this is 8 to 12 hours, this is 14 hours, this is 10 to 20 hours, this is anywhere between months to years. Formation, red bone marrow, this is also red bone marrow, this is also red bone marrow. Monocytes are formed in limbs and lymph nodes and spleen. They are formed in thymus and lymph nodes. Function, phagocytes, they secrete heparin and histamine. They are anti-allergic and wound healing. They are scavengers. They are related to antibody formation. So these are in a gist of the entire group of neutrophils, basinophiles, acidophiles, monocytes, and lymphocytes.